Hello, my name is Sandy Mourão, and I live and work in Portugal. And I'm a teacher educator and a storyteller, and I'm passionate about picture books and early language learning. And I think that's why Veronica asked me to record this very short introduction. I hope I can keep it short. So I'm just going to share my slides. There we go. I'm going to talk about responding to picture books in another language. And so I'm just going to go over reader response, just briefly describe reader response, and then a set of response categories, and then some examples from my own picture book read aloud with children to help you understand what that involves. Yeah, and that's it. Hopefully it'll prompt discussion. So, literary theories and reader response in this sense since about the 1970s has recognized that the reader is an active meaning maker. And so let's just start with Wolfgang Iser, who described readers filling gaps left by authors. Now, in Wolfgang Iser was considering authors as in writers, but we're considering author illustrators who create picture books with pictures and words. And often the pictures show and the words tell different things, or they work together to provide one whole meaning-making experience. And often children have to fill the gaps between the pictures and the words. So Wolfgang Iser's theory of filling the gaps is very relevant. Louise Rosenblatt valued the affective aspect of the reading experience, and she believed that as readers we brought our lives to the text, and then the text also responded to our lives in a way. It was a two-way transactional relationship, and she believed that together the reader and the text created a third text, which emerged from the reader's personal responses to the original. And finally, Stanley Fish proposed this notion of a interpretive community where everyone was responsible for shaping the reader's activities with texts and helping them produce that third text. This is very relevant for a language classroom when we recognize that children bring the world, bring their own experiences, and bring what they want to say about a text to the read aloud session. So implications then, excuse me, for response to picture books, we need to be aware of what the words show and the pictures, what the pictures show and the words tell, and be aware of the gaps that the children might be able to fill or will be active in interpreting. Enable them to share personal experiences, so bring their lives to the text to encourage that transactional interaction, and allow for discussion and talk, and also enable their creation, their co-creation as interpretive communities of interpretations and their own stories. So I thought I would just give you a couple of examples. This is from Shh, We Have a Plan by Chris Horton. This is a Walker picture book from 2015. I think you might be familiar with it. Four characters, four human-like characters have fishing nets, and they go hunting for, in this case, to begin with, birds anyway. And every time they find a bird, the little one they go 1, 2, 3, and the little one says go very loudly, and of course the bird flies away. And then at the end, they are chased by lots of birds, and then they find a squirrel, and it starts again. And there's a possibility of them hunting the squirrel. And it's very silly, but the children love it. So this is an example of, I was just showing the picture book. This was actually the third time that they had heard this picture book. And this little boy said in Portuguese, I remember that one, the little one, only spoke and the bird went away. So he was providing a very short summary of the picture book. So this is a lovely example of an analytical response where he is describing the plot, yes, from narrative meanings. Very nice. Then this is another example from the same group of children. And this little girl, whoops, a daisy, sorry about that. There we go. This little girl is pointing to to the bird in the picture book, and she's saying in Portuguese, "Ele é muito esperto." And so I rephrase what she says into English, and I say, "Yes, he's very clever bird, isn't he?" So, and I'm hoping I've chosen this because I'm hoping that this might be something that can be said again in the future. And so very clever might be a chunk of language which the children might begin to say at this moment in the picture book. And then this is another example. The repetitive 1, 2, 3, go becomes very much part of the visual verbal narrative. And so the children will all say go together, which is part of the analytical response where they're savoring the words. And then as you can see, these two hands coming up here. And this boy is, when we say go, he actually goes go, and he's taking himself into the narrative here. And this is what would be considered the transparent response, and it's a physical where he's interacting there with the characters. And I think this is the final one from this example. This little boy is giving the characters in the book some advice. So it's a transparent response, and although it could also be a personal response, but I've put it in the I've put it in the personal response, haven't I? Giving advice, that's right. So he's talking to the characters and he's telling them what he thinks, that they should be careful, because every time they fall and this also frightens the bird. And then I just want to finish by saying that a read aloud is very much like a triangle. So we have the picture book at one point, the child at the other point, and the teacher at the other point. And in fact, what's happening is there is a lot of participation, interaction, and interpretation that's going on. The teacher is interpreting the picture book and interacting with the children. The children are interacting and interpreting, but in fact, as I say, yes, it's not just one child. That should be children, shouldn't it? Because children are interacting with each other all the time, and that notion of the community of interpreters. Okay, and so what's our role in all this then? Well, our scaffolding functions have been outlined by Lawrence very nicely. There are 5 scaffolding or categories here, where as readers we read the verbal text, and we also guide the learners around the book as object. So we read both the visual and the verbal. So and we're managers and encouragers. So we manage discussion, we bring their attention to details, we give praise, and we create also an atmosphere of respect and acceptance among the children, so that whatever we say is okay. We're clarifiers and we're probers, so we support and extend what they're saying, or maybe contradict or amplify it. We ask for more information, we ask them questions, and we help them make connections. We're wonderers and speculators. This is a very important part of modeling being a reader. We question and we can wonder with the learners, whether we think, did Rosie know that the fox was following her? What do you think? And we can also be extenders or refiners. So we amplify the learners' contributions. We rephrase what they say, and we take those teachable moments. Yeah. Okay, so yes, read alouds are very exciting things, and I hope that I've prompted you to sort of think of them as important language learning experiences. Okay, so those are my references, and thank you very much, and enjoy your coffee hour.